Hello and welcome to this edition of Made in Plymouth, a podcast for the creatives of the Ocean City. Today I'm talking to Plymouthian singer-songwriter Alex Hart. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning. How are you
It's really good to
doing?
see you, not on stage, because that's normally where I do see you.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
you seem to have been around for a long, long time. I mean, I attend live music because I prefer live music and I will follow it anywhere. I can remember seeing you playing. Would have been about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. I think it was with Vince Lee, and you were singing with Becca up
Yeah.
at More Wenham Key.
Oh,
And even
wow.
then, I thought, oh, she's been around for a while, this young girl. And I always see the names outside pubs. You know, how long have you actually been playing live music?
Probably for about 15 years, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
32 now, so
Yeah, I know. Well, I was going to be a gentleman, not mention your age. Uh, But that 15 years feels a lot more like twice that length of time. So you're clearly prolific when it comes to performing. Um,
oh.
what was the first thing that influenced you when you sort of picked up a guitar and started to learn to play? Who was your influence when you were a young lady?
I think it was when I was at school and because I didn't actually grow up in Plymouth. I grew up in East Devon and near Tiverton. And I saw a friend at school that had a guitar and I was playing the violin at the time and I was doing all the grades and all of that stuff. And I got really bored of it. And I just saw Katie Tunstall playing Black Horse and the Cherry Tree.
Yeah,
And it was the whole looping thing, her on a acoustic guitar. And I thought, that's so cool. I really want to do that. And because like no teacher was saying, you've got to do this, do the grades and, laying it
mm,
on thick and making it boring. I thought I'm going to rebel and I'm going to borrow my friend's guitar and go home and learn this song. And I think I learned it in like 2 days and I'd never
yeah.
played a guitar in my life. I
How old were
totally,
you when you did that?
I was probably about 14.
Yeah, that's a rebellious age, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I was a real
If
pain in
you're
the
gonna
neck,
do it, do it then.
Ah,
And if
yeah.
you leap forward in time to where we are today, I mean, did you ever sort of then, as that 14-year-old Alex Hart, think to himself, one day I'm going to be releasing albums and playing live on stage and touring and, getting people like Martin Barre and Seth Lakeman to perform on my album? And said, did you ever sort of see that coming? Was it a
No, I
dream?
think I always had a dream that I wanted to. Like
Yeah,
I grew up in the same village as Joss Stone,
yeah,
and she made it big. She went to the same school as me, and that really like influenced me as well. And I think I was just so obsessed with it. I used to make poems, and I used to, try and like I was singing all the time as a kid, and like winding up my family. And I think I knew that I wanted to do it so bad, but I didn't want to be famous. But I wanted to just like I just couldn't stop playing music. And I think
yeah.
any other subject at school, whether it was maths or English, I was just not interested. And all my teachers were like, well, don't worry, Ali, because, we know you're going to be a musician one day. So that I was actually really lucky and supported by school and, the people around me and everyone else, didn't get off as lightly as me. So I was
No,
like,
well done you. It's very lucky. You have just released the new album I'm looking at now, Visions. And when you look at the flyleaf and you look at the names, and the dropped two of them earlier, Martin Barr and Seth Lakeman, how did you connect with these guys?
with Martin, it was probably about 10 years ago now. I was working at a studio doing some backing vocals for some people's albums, and that was at Middle Farm near Newton Abbot, really prolific studio. And a friend of mine, the engineer, said, I've got this guy coming in tomorrow, need some backing vocals on this album. And I was like, yeah, yeah, cool. I'll come back tomorrow then. And came in, met Martin, never heard of him in my life. Like, just thought, oh, it's this guy, like this older
Yes,
guy, you
yeah.
know.
I used to play with Jethro Tull. Who?
Yeah, I know. Who's that? And I wrote my friend Alani in as well. She's another amazing singer in Plymouth. And I said, we've got this guy coming, la la. Anyway, had a day with him, learned all his songs. I think we played on like 10 songs in that day, literally on the fly. And then we didn't end up finishing the album. And he said, oh, can you come back tomorrow? I was like, yeah, yeah, no worries. Came back the next day. When I went home, I Googled him And I was like, oh, right, okay. Like he's won a Grammy. He's like, yeah, written one of the best guitar riff solos, in the world. So that was quite, yeah, quite full on for us. And the next day went really well. We just loved him, got on so well. It's no ego at all. It's just like playing with, your granddad or something.
Yeah.
And then he said at the end of the day, he said, "Oh, I'm going on tour in a couple of weeks, around Europe. So, do you want to come?" And I was like, yeah. He was like, "I'll pay you, we're going for like 4 weeks all around Europe." So I said to Alani, I said, "Can you come, can you do it as well?" And bless her, she was at uni, so she, a bit younger than me, said, I just can't do it. And I said, "That's fine. I'll find someone else." So I got in touch with Becca Langsford, who was obviously a friend of mine. But we weren't that close at that time, So I got in touch with her and I said, "Do you want to come and do this thing? I've got this tour." And she'd never toured before in her life. She'd never done anything like that. Not even really any session work for people to that standard. And she was like, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "Come on, it's going to be great." And then basically that's how it started. And that was, yeah, 10 years ago. And then we were touring with Martin for probably like 7 years. Did America twice, kept going out to Europe, did England a few times, and he lives quite local to Plymouth. So actually, it was great. We made that friendship, and it was like he was family, it's like it is like touring with your granddad. Like that's
That's
how I feel.
brilliant.
Yeah, and he's so supportive of me, and and when I say, "Oh, can you play on my album?" I've played on 4 of his albums now, and I was like, "Come on, Martin, like, can you
Yeah.
do me a favor?" Always willing to help and support, and like I said, no ego, just like a completely normal
Yeah.
person, and
Yeah.
that's how it should be, like
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone lovelier in my life.
And what about Seth?
So with Seth,
So he comes on. He's from local stock as well. I mean, I've seen his
yeah,
dad Jeff many a time.
yeah.
So is that a local connection?
Yeah, Yelvy boy. Yeah, I was working in the Bee Bar in Plymouth, and have been working there for about 3 years. This is about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And basically, I was working in the bar. It was like middle of the day, and Seth walks in, and I'm there on my own in the bar with just one chef. And he walks in, he's like, "Can I get a takeaway, love?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, what do you want? Thai green curry, whatever." And then he went, "Oh, by the way, do you want to come on tour in February with me?" And this is like November. And I'm thinking, I know Seth, but I don't know him that well. He's been
Yeah.
to some of my gigs. I've met him through friends. And I was like, oh, I was thinking, this is crazy. And he said, "Well, let me send you the stuff. I'll send you the new album." He just recorded this album with Cara Dillon and other people. It was called the Mayflower Project, the Pilgrim's Tale, all about
Yeah.
the Mayflower. And basically, he sent me the whole album, and it was all Cara Dillon's voice. So I learned all of Cara Dillon's parts. I learned every song in like 2 days, and he came back again in 2 days, same kind of time, brought his guitar, and I had a restaurant full of people, and he said, "Oh, can we go sit up in there and just like play through some stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said to all the restaurant guys, I was like, "You all right for a minute while I go and do this?" And it was kind of like an interview. And they were like, "Yeah, yeah, cool." And we sat up in the mez and just sort of played some of these songs. And he said, "Yeah, great." He was like, "Yeah, yeah, happy for you to come on tour and work with me." And I was like, "Yeah, amazing." So that was, yeah, about 4 years ago. And then yeah, we've just been gigging and recording albums and touring all the time. So yeah, was gigging last night actually in Salcombe as a duo. And it's just a real honor to be playing with him. He's so prolific, and playing with Robert Plant, and Mercury Award nominee. It's like it's a real honor to be with him.
So you're finding yourself gigging a little bit further afield. It's a bit more than just popping down to the junction or playing in the Millbridge. And
Yeah.
suddenly, that's Salcombe. Okay, that's cope. We can cope with Salcombe, but obviously
Yeah.
you're going much further afield, having toured Europe, etc.
Yeah.
But you've just finished the tour, I believe.
Yeah, I just did a solo tour. It was a double headliner tour, but solo gigs. Basically a guy up in the north called Joe Martin. We both said, oh, if we take in turns who's gonna headline each night,
Yeah.
we can then pull fans from the north and from the south and do it that way. So we've just done a week and a half on the road. In Plymouth, we were at the Box. We were up in Lancashire. We were up in Yorkshire, London, Hull. Yeah, quite a lot up north actually. Got quite a big following up north now, which is a bit strange, but yeah, it's been really good. Loved it.
I mean that obviously comes about from the interaction you have with other people, though. I mean, you obviously you're playing off of somebody else, aren't you, and getting there. It's almost like that Star Is Born moment. They go to see this one. Hey, hang on, what about this one over here?
That's it.
It's
All about networking, isn't it?
no, excuse the cough. Just getting over COVID.
Oh no,
Test
bless you.
tested negative for the
Oh,
first time
dear.
yesterday, but still got the cough for some reason. Never mind.
Oh,
So let's talk about Patchwork Studios.
yeah.
Um, and it caught my eye about 2 years ago. I was camping over at Maker with a
Mm.
friend, and the lady in the camping reception said, "Oh, have you come over for the gig?" Is this what gig? But there's a gig. Fantastic.
Great.
That happened to be spoken word poetry, open mic poetry, which I do. That's my side gig. I read my poetry. I wouldn't recommend it just yet, but anyway.
That's
Um,
great.
so I was drawn to that, and from that picked up everything else that was going on there,
Mm.
and I like the way it's marketed. You know, this is curated by you, and just that little phrase in itself makes it feel like, this isn't just something someone's thrown together. This is something some thought has been put into. And
Yeah.
so each time I've gone, and it's about 6 times now. And in fact, is it still on Thursday this coming week?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and
Yeah,
Thursday.
it is. Yeah, 12.
Um,
Yeah.
I've always been blown away by the side act, the undercard, the people that somebody that you drag up from St Agnes, or sort of you're throwing an entertainment cast net out there, and you're pulling up some real surprises.
Yeah.
How did you come across these guys and these gals?
I think it is just from gigging and touring and making connections. Sometimes people email me and say, can I come and play? And I'm like, yeah, it's all about sort of taking a chance on people. And I think for me, with the whole candlelit vibe, it was like I want to make a space where it's people are listening, almost like a Ronnie Scott thing, but not too not pretentious, but like they're coming to hear the stories of the songs. They're captivating. I think that they're good musicians. I want to basically showcase the best talent that we've got in the southwest, or even from further afield if they're willing to travel that far for not a lot. Obviously
Mm,
we don't have a massive budget. So um for me, yeah, it's all about just sort of, even like the bigger bands like Mad Dog, I got Mad Dog to
yeah.
play it, but I was thinking in my head, oh, it's going to be a sit down thing and people are going to listen to the songs, and it so wasn't, was it? But actually, that was like the magic of Mad Dog. They can captivate that audience. But I think even with that, it was still like this intimate thing where even though people were dancing, they could still hear Mike's voice and his stories. Because I just think, people write such beautiful songs, and if you're playing in a pub or you're playing in a bar, or anywhere that people can chat, you lose what they're actually saying. It's like, why are we doing this? Why are we making art? Why are we writing music if people don't listen? And I think that was my whole vision. It's like inviting the people that want to pay money because they want to listen to those songs, and like inviting that kind of group up there and into
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
generationally, um, like there's a lot of granddads there, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. There are a
My
lot.
sort of my age group, when I look around, it's actually noticeable that there are not that many younger people there.
Yeah, I know, and I was a bit
I don't
worried
think
about
that's a
that.
good. I'm not suggesting that's neither a good thing nor a bad thing. It's just an observation of
Yeah,
the audience,
yeah,
and everyone's incredibly well behaved. No
yeah.
one's getting particularly drunk, although that opportunity does exist.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's the ambience of the place. I mean, I think the lighting thing there,
Yeah.
the candle lit, and for anyone who's never been, basically they're obviously not real candles because that would be a bit of a health and safety hazard in such a small room where there's lots of rugs hanging off the walls. But those little faux tea light candles that, but they flicker, but they give a sense, and it is a real. It's probably the coziest place I've ever been to listen to music. It's the
Oh,
sort of place I feel I should be wearing my slippers and favorite cardigans and listen to
you
something.
should do that one time.
Well,
Come up like
we'll
that.
see. Check my feet on Thursday night. Uh,
Yeah, man.
but it is such a relaxed atmosphere. Do you think the limitation you have on numbers is a drawback, though?
I don't think it is because I think
What is your
that's what
capacity
makes it
limit there?
intimate. I think it's probably about 60 if you've got
Yeah,
the seats out as well.
yeah,
If you were to do all standing, I think we could get 90 in. But I mean,
okay,
it's not about a standing thing, It's like I think because they run events over the weekend, they're the sort of standing, dancey,
yeah,
DJ, whatever, big bands. For Thursday, it's like, oh, it's a Thursday. In the winter, it's cozy. I'm trying to plan a Christmas show there at the moment. So I think that's the beauty of it. And actually, sometimes if it's a bigger band, you can charge a little bit more on the door,
yeah,
to make it work as well. So it's kind of
yeah,
like, at the start when we started it, we couldn't do that. We had to just get bums on seats,
yeah.
get people in. But now it's getting more of a reputation. I feel like,
It's definitely something that's oh, by the way, have you ever been? Yeah, I've been there. Sort of
yeah.
surprising people saying, "Oh, you've been? Yeah, I've been. It's great." And I mean, is that something you're looking to maintain?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
And
I struggled
maybe,
earlier in the year because of touring. I thought, oh, can I do this? It's all the promotion and it's not my venue, so all I have is that one night. But again, when you're on the road trying to promote yourself, and
yeah,
now I work for the Barbican Theatre as well, so I program their events as well. And I also run another night, Boston Sessions in Plymouth at Boston Tea
yeah.
Party, again, a once a month thing. It's all these things. I'm just like, what? But
And
it was,
is there
it was,
a kind of synchronicity between those three venues you just mentioned and what you put together, or do you try to put something different
very
for a venue?
different.
Make a venue like this is more bluesy, or this one's more jazzy, and this one's more country, or
I don't think it's like, yeah, I don't try and think of genres, but I think it's easier because of again, the budget on places like that where it's small, and it's all run in house. To get duos and like solo artists, normally they are sort of folky Americana country, like
uh-huh.
blues. I never sort of get like a reggae or because I think that those kind of audiences don't come and pay to like sit down and, watch that kind of music. It's like you've got to think about who's going to pay. And like you say, it's normally the older generation that are literally the ones supporting everyone.
Yeah,
Um, and it's yeah. So I think, and for me, that's like my forte. I know those people. I work in that kind of industry. So I'm like, I'm using my contacts to bring music into Plymouth and the surrounding areas. And because I just feel so passionately about it.
mm,
I go on tour and everyone on tour, other bands that I meet, they're like, where do you play in Plymouth? We're trying to get gigs in Plymouth. And I'm like, I don't know, guys, So I've come up basically with 3 venues now, helping the Barbican Theatre. I work there as a practitioner anyway and teach there once a week. And I saw this empty theatre going, why aren't we having bands in here? And they're like, well, do you want the job? And I'm like, well, I don't really have the time, but I will do it. And that's working really nicely as well. So I feel like we're just injecting music back into Plymouth because we lost the hub. We've lost so much,
mm,
other pubs as well. And it's great playing in a pub, but again, they're not listening to the songs. You want touring bands
yeah.
coming down here, bringing more revenue, bringing more music, and then giving other local people the chance to support. So then that gets them in front of more people. It's like good for everything.
Mm.
It's what we need.
I mean, every town, every city's got someone playing music somewhere at some point. But what's your take on the music scene of Plymouth? Because I look at Plymouth as to me, it's almost like the music's best kept secret. That
Yeah.
some of the musicians that I get to see, um, frankly, for not a lot of money,
Yeah.
in local hostelries. I mean, oh, you sung there yourself. In the last Sunday of every month in the lounge, listen to Russell Sinclair. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you know, everyone's. Well, you just widened your eyes then. Everyone's exactly the same. So I can't believe we get this for free. It's great.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I know.
what I mean, I think Plymouth is blessed
Yeah.
with so many talented musicians. But if someone said, you know, nationwide, oh, you know, name your top 10 cities for quality music, I don't think it'd be on anyone's radar.
No, but I think
It's
it's
kind of,
it's
you know,
one of
it's
those.
that sort of, it's that stops at Exeter syndrome again, isn't it? You know, let's get down here to Plymouth. It's
Yeah.
that last 30 miles down the A38 that no one really wants to do. But
Yeah.
um, I mean, you know, I could almost go out every night and listen to live music somewhere and not
Yeah.
once be disappointed.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. There's nothing else to do down here. You gotta
Well,
just
yeah,
play
because yeah, that
music.
last 30 miles of the A38. Yeah, it's entertain yourself. But
Mm.
seriously, I mean, you know, some of the musicians that I see here, and I kind of look at them and I'm thinking, why aren't you nationally recognised? Why
Mm.
aren't you, for want of a better word, bigger? Now it could be they don't all want to be bigger.
No, and I
Um,
think it's like a whole other job marketing yourself and everything. It's easy to play gigs and book gigs, and if you're busy going round and round Plymouth, and
yeah,
that's great. But some people just don't want to do the business side of it. Unless you can do that, you're not gonna get anywhere. It's so cutthroat these days. But I just think, I mean, I actually over the weekend held a funeral service for my friend Jimmy Apadura Chua, and he was one of my best friends. But we held it at the B Bar on Saturday, and he was a big blues man, loved playing blues guitar, bit of a local celebrity. And I asked Russell Sinclair and the band if they'd come and play, and they did it for nothing. And he
yeah,
brought the whole band, and it was incredible. We're sat in the B Bar Saturday afternoon. It is pumping, like literally the best band, in Plymouth, in my eyes at the moment. I think he is an incredible musician, and I think what he's got and built with those boys. I mean, they played at my wedding.
yeah,
He is literally. I love Russell. I think he's
yeah.
awesome. And I'm not really a blues person, but I
No,
just love it. I just think their energy is great. They work hard. They're smoking. They're literally smoking right
yeah.
now.
Well, I mean, you'll always find me in there on the last Sunday of the month. There's no other
Yeah.
place to be. I mean, you know, he's such an immense character as well.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's good for Plymouth, but and like you say, if you're visiting Plymouth and you think, oh, where's stuff going on, unless you've got the little intel, like you're not gonna know.
Yeah.
And that it is like Plymouth's best kept secret.
Mm.
We're above Exeter like that. Exeter hasn't got the venues. They're more sort of like DJs, I feel, and I think Torbay's got its own scene going on, and that's great. But Plymouth definitely, we're really up there at the moment, but I
Yeah.
think that's why we need to create these venues, like the box, like
It's
Patchwork.
that you that well, you mentioned earlier the hub, you know, as a venue where you could crowd a couple of hundred people in and really have a good old bop away. And losing that, where'd you do that now? In Plymouth,
Yeah,
it's tough, isn't it?
exactly. And that was my whole angle with the Barbican Theatre. Even though it's seated, it's still 140 cap. Similar sort of like head count to the hub, but it's
Yeah,
like it's a proper venue. And that otherwise, it's like you've got pubs and then you've got the pavilions. Like what's
yeah,
in between?
yeah.
Where do you go?
Exactly that that's
Yeah,
missing.
yeah.
So we're getting towards the end of our little conversation this morning. So before we go, Um, tell us about the upcoming future for Alex Hart. What's next? You know, are we looking forward to a new album again soon, hot on the back of the Visions, or
Oh, a
you
little
know,
bit
you off
more
on
time
tour
to
again?
wait. If I could afford to do another album straight away, I so would. But yeah, that'll be a little bit longer. But vinyl's coming out in December, so the Visions album will be out on vinyl. And then I'm touring again with Seth the end of November for a couple of weeks. And then I'm on tour again with him in February. It's a big Kitty J tour, which was his hit song 20 years ago. So we were on like tour bus tour around the UK, playing at like London Union Chapel and big venues. So that's gonna be great. And then I'm planning another tour for me probably in the summer, and then probably another one again in autumn. And then I'll just be gigging all year, and
Yeah.
traveling around and just gig and
Was
promote
this
this
what
new
you do?
album. Yeah, interviews, gigging, just yeah.
And Alex Hart, thank you so much for your time today.